There are 4,681 open pull requests sitting in the Godot game engine's GitHub repository right now, and a growing number of them are AI-generated junk that nobody understands, not even the people who submitted them. The maintainers who built one of the most important open-source game engines in the world are publicly saying they don't know how much longer they can keep going. That's one of two major stories today. The other involves China quietly capturing 90% of the global humanoid robot market, while American companies struggle to ship more than 150 units each. Let's get into it. Godot is a free, open-source game engine. If you're not familiar, think of it as the community-built alternative to Unity and Unreal. No licensing fees, no corporate strings attached. It's been around for over a decade, and in recent years it's exploded in popularity, especially after Unity's infamous pricing debacle in 2023. Thousands of indie developers and studios rely on Godot to make their games. The engine lives on GitHub, where anyone can submit code contributions through what's called a pull request, or PR. That open contribution model is the heart of what makes Godot special. Anyone can look at the source code, find a bug, write a fix, and submit it. The maintainers review it, and if it's good, it gets merged into the engine. But this week, Godot co-founder Remy Verscheld, who's spent nearly a decade building this engine and co-founded the Godot backing company W4 Games, took to Bluesky to sound the alarm. He said that AI-generated code contributions have become, in his words, increasingly draining and demoralizing for the project's maintainers. The numbers tell the story. There are currently 4,681 open pull requests in the Godot repository, and a significant chunk of new submissions are being generated by large language models, tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Copilot, by contributors who often don't understand the code they're submitting, haven't tested it, and can't explain what it does when asked. Verscheld described the daily reality, quote, "We find ourselves having to second-guess every PR from new contributors, multiple times per day. The description is verbose LLM output. Is the code written at least partially by a human? Does the author understand the code they're sending? Did they test it? Are the test results made up?" End quote. The issue was amplified by game designer Adrien de Jong, director of the studio behind Hidden Folks, who called these LLM-generated PRs a massive time waster for reviewers. And Godot isn't alone. The Blender 3D project is facing the exact same problem, and recently proposed an AI contributions policy. The Linux Foundation, Fedora, Firefox, Ghosty, Servo, and LLVM have all had to address this too. This is the first real crisis of the AI-assisted coding era hitting open source, and it exposes a fundamental tension that the tech industry hasn't figured out yet. The promise of AI coding tools was democratization. Anyone can write code now. The barrier to entry has been obliterated, and in many ways that's genuinely great. But here's the problem nobody anticipated at scale. When millions of people can generate code they don't understand, and then submit that code to projects maintained by a handful of exhausted volunteers, you're not democratizing development. You're poisoning the commons. These maintainers aren't paid proportionally to their impact. Godot underpins games played by millions of people, and yet the people reviewing every line of code are now spending their limited time and energy sorting through AI-generated submissions, where even the test results might be fabricated. When asked whether AI could be used to detect the AI slop, Verscheld responded that it would be horribly ironic to feed the AI machinery to solve a problem AI created. GitHub itself has acknowledged the issue. Their project manager posted weeks ago about exploring solutions to the volume of low-quality contributions, creating significant operational challenges for maintainers. But acknowledgement and solutions are very different things. This is a governance problem, not a technology problem. The tools are neutral. The flood of unconsidered, untested, uncomprehended code is the human behavior enabled by those tools. There are a few things to watch here. Verscheld has suggested that Godot may need to raise the barrier to entry for contributors, which goes directly against the project's founding ethos of openness. One project called Coolify has already created an anti-slop GitHub actions that its developer claims could have caught 98% of junk PRs automatically. GitHub says PR deletion from the UI is coming soon. But the bigger question is whether GitHub, and Microsoft behind it, will build platform-level tooling to address this, or leave it to each project to fend for itself. So AI tools are creating a flood that's overwhelming the people who maintain critical infrastructure. But while the open source world is dealing with too much AI, the robotics world is dealing with a very different kind of imbalance. One that's geographic, industrial, and potentially much harder to fix. Because while American tech companies have been talking about humanoid robots for years, China has been quietly shipping them. Here are the numbers that should get your attention. In 2025, global shipments of humanoid robots reached approximately 13,000 units. China accounted for roughly 90% of them. The two companies leading this wave are Unitree Robotics, based in Hangzhou, and Agibot, based in Shanghai. Unitree shipped over 5,500 humanoid robots last year. Agibot shipped over 5,100. Between just those two companies, that's more than 10,000 units. Now compare that to the United States. The three most prominent American humanoid robotics companies, Tesla, Figure AI, and Agility Robotics, each shipped approximately 150 units in 2025. Combined, that's roughly 450 units. Chinese companies are outshipping American ones by a ratio of about 50-1, and the gap isn't closing, it's accelerating. Unitree has announced plans to ship between 10 and 20,000 G1 humanoid robots in 2026 alone. That's a potential four-fold increase year over year. The company is also preparing for what could be China's first IPO of a publicly traded humanoid robotics firm, targeting a listing by mid-2026. The Unitree G1, their flagship consumer-accessible humanoid, starts at around $13,500. It stands about 1.3 meters tall, has up to 43 degrees of freedom, uses 3D LiDAR and AI-driven locomotion, and the research edition runs on an NVIDIA Jetson Orin module. It's already been adopted by Amazon for robotics research, and by Stanford, MIT, and UT Austin. For context, Tesla's Optimus, which Elon Musk has called the most important product Tesla will ever make, is targeting a price range of $20,000 to $30,000. But Tesla did not meet its own 2025 production target of 5,000 units. Musk himself recently acknowledged China is very good at AI, very good at manufacturing, and will definitely be the toughest competition for Tesla. He added, "To the best of our knowledge, we don't see any significant competitors outside of China." If this feels familiar, it should. 5 years ago, the conventional wisdom was that legacy automakers, and Tesla would dominate the electric vehicle market. China was an afterthought. Today, BYD outsells Tesla globally, and Chinese EVs are reshaping the entire auto industry. The exact same playbook is unfolding in humanoid robotics. Massive state investment, a mature manufacturing supply chain, aggressive pricing, and relentless iteration at scale. According to Omdia analyst Lian Jaisu, China's dominance comes from a combination of policy support, public investment, mature supply chain, and advancements in AI software and hardware. Humanoid robotics was explicitly listed as a priority in China's 14th five-year plan back in 2021. This wasn't an accident, it was a strategy. The market is projected to exceed 100,000 units by 2027, a six-fold increase from 2025, with logistics, manufacturing, and automotive applications making up 72% of installations. The total market value is expected to surpass $10 billion by 2029. The uncomfortable truth for Western companies is that manufacturing scale is a moat. When Unitree is shipping 20,000 units and iterating on real-world feedback from thousands of deployments, a company shipping 150 prototypes is not competing in the same league. You can't close that gap with better demos or more impressive keynotes. You close it with factories, supply chains, and volume. The next 12 months are critical. Watch whether Unitree hits its 10 to 20,000 unit shipping target for 2026. Watch whether its IPO succeeds and unlocks even more capital. On the American side, watch Tesla's Optimus production numbers. Musk has made enormous promises about scaling to millions of units eventually, but the gap between those promises and actual shipments is currently vast. And watch whether any Western government responds with the kind of coordinated industrial policy that China implemented 5 years ago. Because in hardware, once the manufacturing lead is established, it is brutally difficult to claw back. Whether it's code or hardware, the question is the same. Can the people and institutions that matter most adapt fast enough to the world that's being built around them? That's what keeps this beat interesting, and a little terrifying. If you want to stay on top of these stories as they develop, subscribe. We cover AI and tech news here every single day. See you in the next one.